Okay, so Pixie, why did I bring up an extra? Oh, I guess you pulled them.
Yeah.
Show your pictures of your Pixie to your partner, your neighbor. How are they similar? How are they different?
So the same.
What is the most common thing you see in all these Pixies?
It's short and long.
Short in the back, longer on top. Okay, so that is very common. So if we start in the shortest point of the haircut, where are we starting?
The nape.
In the nape. Okay, is it shorter on the sides than it is on the top?
Yeah.
Look at your picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're shorter around here. Whether it's cut around the ear or not is debatable, depends on the style. But the ear is going to be your hardest part. Some ears move, some don't. So go ahead and grab your ear. Does your ear fold down like this? Oh look, everybody's does. Every once in a while you get an ear that will not move. It's just hard cartilage and it won't move, and I don't know what. I don't know what makes that so special, but it happens. When you have an ear that doesn't move, it's really hard to cut around. So cutting around the ear is going to be the hardest part of the haircut. It's even harder on a doll because it doesn't move, it's plastic. It's really hard. So I want you to pretend to cut around the ear the best you can. The only way you can learn to cut around an ear is to cut around an ear. So on model day, it would be really imperative that you have an ear to cut around. That's a shorter haircut. Because unless you do it, you can't do it. There's no way to mimic it. Does that make sense? For you two, in the meantime, not you yet. For you two, in the meantime, you need to sit and watch 2 or 3 ears being cut out. You need to find that time in your day. If you see a short haircut between now and model day, it is imperative that you see it done on a human being. I'm going to demo it, but I can't stress the importance. And you two can, I do a lot of short haircuts, and Nikki does a lot of short haircuts. So between the two of us, I think you should be able to see that in the next week or so. Our next class is December 30th. It is a model day, so I would like to have some ear to cut around, men or women. Doesn't.
I have a
No, there's men's cutting too. Sorry.
But there's another one, right?
There's men's, and then there's a week off, and then there's our model day. But I don't care if it's a male or female. We need an ear to cut around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's different. There's some differences between making it look feminine and making it look masculine, but it's the same. Does that make sense? You're still
Even so, like, what if his hair is already a little shorter? Like, can I
That's
still bring
fine.
him in and still? Okay.
the biggest thing is that you are cutting around that ear and there's hair to cut.
Do I need a men's cut to bring in?
If you have one, if you have one, that'd be great. So that's going to be the hardest part. So let's talk about our plan. What are the 3 things we need to think about in our plan? Sectioning. What's the second thing? I didn't hear you, sorry. Over direction. Is that what you said? I heard it in my ear, but it on in my brain. And what's the third thing?
Elevation.
Elevation. Name this haircut. There are 3 things that we can do. We can create a one length, we can create a graduation, and we can create layers. Those are the only things we can create in hair. Name a pixie by that name. Look at your pixie and name it. Is it a one length? Is it a graduation? Is it a layer?
Would it be graduation?
Interesting. You see layers, you see layers, you see graduation. What is it? Okay, it is a combination. It's graduated from short to long, correct? It's not the same length here as it is here, so that would be a layer. So it's a graduation with layers.
What if you would have clipped the back though?
You're still graduating the hair, you're just using a different tool.
Okay.
It's still going to be short here and longer here. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're like buzzing it.
I'm just making a mess here.
So you are doing both graduation and layers. When you look at that, what type of sectioning do you think you could do to create the graduation in the nape?
I think diagonal.
You could, okay, so you're saying diagonal, and show me the diagonal that you're saying.
Like angled to the back.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
that's one option, depending on the pixie you're doing, 100%. What else could you do? Yep,
Mine is pretty short, so I would say maybe like for a solid one with the comb.
okay.
Like here.
And you're gonna build out with elevation?
Yes.
That can be done. Yes.
Yeah, I
So,
was thinking about the same thing with mine.
you can also use vertical. The question is, how are you going to do it? I'm going to show you the way I think it's easiest for a newer stylist to learn it. I also like to show this way because then you can transition that to men's cutting very easily with a scissor cut. So I work on diagonals and they cross each other. Not necessarily like a V, but you kind of cut one whole way and then you come across and connect. And that builds right into by your ear. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to show you. Up to the parietal, and then when you get to the parietal, what are we doing up there? What's
Layering.
different up here? We're layering. So what type of sectioning are we going to use for layering?
Vertical.
Vertical. Think about our layered section. We usually use a mohawk, and then we go all the way around. We're going to do that same principle, just only above the parietal. So if you haven't mastered the sectioning of layers yet, you're going to struggle because we're combining graduation with layers now. And so it's not just that we go long to short so we save our doll heads, it's also like skill level and building upon those skills. Make sense? So our sectioning is going to be both diagonal and vertical. Our elevation is going to be what in the nape area when we're graduating? The nape and the sides, what's our elevation going to be?
1 to 89.
1 to 89. This is short and built up. So are we going to be closer to 1 or are we going to put closer to 89?
1.
Which one's lighter? 1 or 89?
1.
1's heavier. 89 is lighter.
Yeah,
Okay,
more
so-
angled.
And this is a steep graduation, right? It's quick, it's short, it's tight. So it's going to be higher, closer to 89 degrees, if you will. You're not going to put it at 90 because if you put it at 90, it's not going to go short to long. It's going to go just straight.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So you are going to make sure that you're not at 90 degrees. You may be at 80, who knows, as long as it's consistent. Okay? So nape and sides we're elevating to graduate. And what are we doing on the top? What's our elevation on the top? 90 and
Yeah.
above. So in this world, we're going to just live at 90. Just to keep it simple. And then, so there's not a huge variation from the sides to the top. Correct? It's just a buildup of weight, and then we have it longer on top. What's our over direction going to be? What's going to determine that? All of you have a slight different picture, so they all might create a different over direction. Is the top balanced? On your haircut specifically that you're looking at, is the whole top the same length? Where is it shorter? In the crown? It's shorter in the crown?
Yes.
Okay, where is yours shorter?
On the sides and the crown a little bit.
Okay, so it's longest right here. Where is yours shortest?
Like her front, she had like the right thing.
Okay,
It is longer than, these pieces are longer
Yep.
than this. Yeah.
where's yours?
Forward, so I'll probably have backwards.
So yours is longer in the front.
Yeah.
So you're gonna use backward.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is that if you're longer here, you over direct backward. And so I'll show you how to do that. If it's balanced, you cut it balanced. I'm gonna cut this so it's longer in the front because you can always balance it out. So that's what I would suggest doing on yours so that you save a little bit of hair to do it again. So if it's, wherever it's longer is where the over direction is gonna go. So we're gonna use backward over direction.
Not
And-
a traveling guide?
It is,
Oh, okay, okay.
and it's gonna be longer in the front. And that's like kind of a standard way of doing a pixie. So the sectioning. we're going to start in the back, yes, below the nape. So similar to the last time. Okay? And you're going to cut on a diagonal until you get to this corner. And then you're going to cut on a diagonal until they meet. So when you're cutting here, you're really only cutting this and it should connect. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And on the side of the head, what this looks like, here's your parietal ridge. So this is where all your layers are going to be, right? So we're not talking about this right now. We're talking about this area down here. It should look like this. And it's going to go right into the back. Probably could be more like that. You know, that little sideburn area is going to have a little tiny section. Yes, no, maybe so.
Maybe so.
Okay, the first thing you're going to cut is your perimeter. Second is going to be your graduation. Oops, no, I just tried to erase that with my finger. Did you see that? And third is going to be your layers on top. So we're going to get through this first before we move on to the top. Yes? Okay. So I'm going to cut it. You can video it if you want. You can move around. Whatever you need to do. But I'm going to take my whole parietal ridge out, that whole top section that we're layering, for two reasons. One, for a visual for you, and two, because this is long. I would not take this section out if my guest already had short hair and I'm just cutting it, like to maintain. Does that make sense? So we'll just get that completely out of the way. I'm going to use a little bit bigger clip for that. You know what? I'm actually going to teach this starting from the front. So you're going to go from here into the back, and then you'll go to the other side into the back. Okay? So what did I say the first thing we're starting with is? What's number one? The perimeter. Okay, so I have all this long hair that I have to kind of get out of my way to cut the perimeter, because normally it would be like short, right? And you're just maintaining. But because she's not already cut, I have to kind of cut that. One of the things when you're doing your perimeter is the nape. What's unique about the hairline for most guests? What happens down here that we need to be aware of? What does it look like?
Oh, it has some whorls.
Sometimes it has some whorls, sometimes it grows and sticks out, sometimes it's a W, sometimes there's like missing hair.
Yeah.
So first evaluating, like, what am I working with here on this plastic lovely doll head? I'm not really working with much, right? It's just no issues. But that's not real for a human, so we're looking at those things. I'm actually just going to take out this extra long hair because it's just going to be in the way of doing my perimeter. And I will tell you that creating a haircut is much harder than maintaining a haircut. So when someone comes in and decides to cut all their hair off, as much fun as that is, it's a lot harder than, oh, you just want to trim on what you have. Because I have all this extra hair that I actually have to get out of the way and create a perimeter right now. So what are we going to do about those things in the nape? My best suggestion is to leave it slightly longer and allow the hair to do what it's going to do and do your cleanup when it's dry. Does that make sense? Like when hair dries, it's going to stick out or it's going to shrink up higher because of a whirl or what have you. So if you leave extra room for that, it's going to really give you an opportunity to have a better haircut than a oopsie. I definitely should have left that longer.
Sometimes I've seen hair where it actually is growing upwards.
Correct, like the hair
It's
grows
weird.
up, like,
Yeah.
take a second and look at each of your hairlines.
I
Like,
shave
look
it
at
off
your,
'cause it's weird
look
like
at your
that.
neighbor's hairline and look.
I don't know, yeah, it looks like that.
So look at, so turn around. So look at her hairline.
Yeah.
She has a W and this is growing upward.
Mhm.
So if you cut that short, do you see what that does? So when
Mhm.
you take that weight off, it's gonna stick out.
I didn't even know I had that.
So look at her hairline. So see how these pieces are lower than these pieces? So if you want this to be more straight, you have to actually like cut it. This is gonna be an inch longer than there, or you're shaving this off.
I
Like,
had to do
that's
that
that's the
too.
choice
That's
you
what
have.
I do, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Turn around, let's see yours. Okay, so hers isn't even a W. Look,
Mhm.
do you see what I mean? She doesn't have a dip here. So you're creating a straight line. And on men, your goal is to create the straightest line you can with the least amount of maintenance. The more you shave off, the faster it looks unruly. Turn around.
Yeah. I have
And on a
it.
woman, you want the least, like you want it to be soft.
Mine
And,
dips up in here.
yeah.
It's really weird.
And see, hers drops down here, but she just takes it off because she doesn't like it. So the goal would be to make it as full of a line, you know, as balanced as a line. But then most women want softness. Every once in a while, you'll come across a woman who wants like a harsh line. That's more rare. So I'm going to teach you how to make it wispy, or I don't know the right word because everybody comes up with different words for that, but a softer line as opposed to like a harsh line across. So how are you going to cut a softer line? What two things can create a softer line?
Texture.
So how would I texturize when cutting the line?
Oh, point cutting.
So point cutting is one way, and then what's the other way to make a softer line? Oh my God, this thing is like, whoop.
Like you could go in with texturizing shears after.
You could texturize after. The other thing you can do is slightly elevate the line, and it's going to give it softness. You're creating graduation as you go anyway. So if you lift it up, it's going to create a little bit of softness there. So we're going to point cut and we're going to lift it up.
Both of them?
So I'm cutting a straight line across the bottom, right? I mean, I'm creating a straight line, and I'm going to cut this short. So I'm going to lift it out. When I'm cutting a line, point cutting, I'm consistently cutting the same depth. Do you see what I'm doing there? So that's going to create a softer,
Yeah.
wispier line. When you're cutting like that, your fingers are like apart in this way, like kind of pushed back, and you shouldn't be touching this finger with the scissor. You're going to cut yourself every time. It should be rested, and when you close, you're pulling back to avoid cutting your finger. So I'm just cutting all this length off. This corner I'm going to recut in my perimeter. And then I'm going to come this way, and I'm going to cut this corner. Yes? So when I take that weight off, do you see how soft that line is?
Yeah.
Because all this is getting cut today.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to continue my perimeter around, and my perimeter is going to follow this hairline. So I'm going to just take this little piece out so you can see what we're working with right here. So I'm going to cut all of this along the hairline this way, and then I'm going to cut this way, and they're going to connect behind the ear. Okay? So I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to bring this forward. I'm going to use the corner. This corner right here is my guide. You with me? So I'm going to bring this forward. You see my corner? Now right now I'm just holding this in my finger and removing the weight off of, like, this is so much hair, I can't even see what's going on here. And I'm gonna cut it over the ear, right? So I'm just gonna bring this and get rid of this, because it's too much hair to work with. So now you see what happens right here? See how it's like perfect here, and then, because I got rid of that weight, it's not where I need to be, so. I'm gonna bring this forward, and I'm gonna continue that line. Do you see it? Now, on a human, I'd fold this ear forward, and I would cut right along this hairline, up and over the ear. What part of my scissor am I using right now? Am I using the whole blade? Just the tip. Okay? And as I come around here, this is what my scissor is doing. It's like this, and then it's gonna come, and I have to create a curve. If you use too much of your scissor, you're gonna create a point, and you'll cut out a hole. So you're just using the tips of your scissors. And in this purpose, you're just gonna follow along the edge of the ear, but normally you would fold the ear forward and cut along the hairline. You with me? Okay, so now I have to make this connect to that. Using backward over direction is going to make where longer, here or here? The front. Think about women's pixies. They're generally softer here. Whether they go back or front, you need that length. So what we're first going to do is get rid of, this is far too much hair to deal with to try and see, right? Now it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. Pull out that hair. So, you can do this in your fingers, or you can do this along the hair that you're going to cut. And I would suggest leaving yours longer, because these tend to stick out, but I want you to see what it looks like. Up and two. And normally, like I'm kind of floating because there's nothing to rest on here. Do you know what I mean?
But you have the ear forward right now, like folded or?
I would push it back, and I would be cutting right around the ear. So this, we're kind of using our imagination a little bit, because we're working in the world of pretend with a doll head. And then sometimes, like this does, if it's over the ear, if they're wearing it longer than the ear, you can just take this back and point cut it like this, and you can take this forward and connect them. But that's what you're going for in this area. And so then, now that I have all that hair kind of out of the way, I can see really what needs refining. And sometimes you have to come in here a couple of times if it's really like low on that little pocket of the ear. If they wear glasses, their glasses need to be off. So that's step one. Now this is gonna look really ugly because I'm gonna cut it short. I want you to cut it longer, because as soon as you get this short, one, you won't be able to cut it again, and two, look what the doll does, it sticks out. Okay, so I'm going to do that same thing on this side. So I'll take this out. And then once I cut this perimeter, you guys are going to cut the perimeter, because there's just too many steps involved. Do you know what I mean? I don't want you to get lost in the middle. So I'm going to bring this forward using the corner. And once I remove this weight on this side is more awkward for me, so I may have to go back and shorten that.
Why, because your fingers are down this
Yes.
time?
So see, like this right here needs refinement to that corner.
Doesn't sound good. Over here. Oh. I used 30 volume. I wasn't playing around.
So following just the top of the ear.
I was like, I know how her hair looks. It doesn't. I'm sorry.
So we're just going to take this one off. So now I'm going to do this front the way I want you to do it. I want you to put your finger maybe halfway on the ear
Something or
and just point cut it to match it. See that point right there? And the hair will lay better for you. See how it's not sticking out?
Yeah.
So that's what I want yours to look like, is a little bit longer here. Because we're gonna take some of this weight off when we layer or graduate, but, so I just want you to do your perimeter. Just across and up and around on both sides. More like this. So I'm cutting right here.
Long.
I'll take one of those metal skinny clips over there. That's probably all I got. Okay, so the sectioning is diagonal back, right? So, you see my sectioning? Now, if you don't have a,
He wasn't supposed to tell me, but.
you don't have hair like this long hair, you kind of have to separate the hair with water. Does that make sense if it's already short? So I'm going to take this bottom piece right here is my guide. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to make sure my fingers match this, and I'm going to cut.
So we're done with the point cutting.
Yeah, I just feel like you could point cut this whole haircut, but for now,
Yeah.
until you learn it, I want you to just do, so that's that first cut. You're going to take the next section, right behind it. Bless you. And you're going to cut.
Oh.
You see it?
Yeah, and that's how I'm doing it. And my Dyson, I'm using it, and it just like, I'm already like doing this side already.
Now this is going to be hard to visually see it because of the color.
On this side. By the time I'm on this side, it just
What it
stops
is,
working.
so-
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to use my work one to blow dry my hair.
You see my sectioning as it's going? So I'm just going to pick up the previous section, not the first section, but the section 2, comb it into my finger.
Do you want me to trim up your bangs?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to work down to the next section. So I'm going to go from here
Do you want to keep that shape that you've got going
all the
on?
way down. Do you see
What
that?
shape do I have? It's not a V shape, it's kind of like an E. Yeah, let's keep it.
Some of this isn't going to have a whole lot to cut.
Oh, my hair is long. Mm-hmm. Very.
You see the corner I'm cutting off?
Your secret is yours.
Now, you should be able to
No.
pick these all up and have a flow. You see that? You cut them like this, you pick them up like this, they should match. So we move on to the next section.
I'll take a good inch.
You see how that's still on the angle? You see that happening? There's like a slight graduation, there's some weight building up. And this is gonna build like a, depending on your elevation, it is gonna build like a little bit of weight right around the occipital because of the angle that we're using.
Like that kind of high center
Or lower
or
center.
lower center.
Because of the angle we're using. Be careful not to get stuck too far forward, or you'll leave too much weight. What I mean by that is you're not coming here. You're going to the previous section, lifting it out and cutting it. how this could be a man or a woman right now?
Yeah.
It would just really be determined by the length. The longer you leave it, the more feminine it is. The shorter you go, the more masculine it is. If you clipper it, that's way more masculine, right?
I feel like a lot of men's cuts are kind of longer and like this now. Like seems to be the trend.
Oh yeah,
for
scissors
like
are a thing.
younger.
I mean, barbers have had to really come up with their scissor work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to this corner, so this is gonna be my last section. Oops. On this side.
So like it's okay that you're cutting kind of the hair that's already been cut.
I'm cutting
You
to
know-
it. I'm
Okay.
cutting to it, yes.
Okay.
Now, do you see how this comes here? I'm gonna come cut back across. You see all this weight right here? When I cut back across, that's gonna get cut off. It's so that I create balance through here. You see that happening? Like, you can really see that weight build up right there. But see how it's gone over here? And so this is where my weight's gonna sit once I cut back across. You see that happening? Kind of, but it's gonna stop here, not way down here. Yes, essentially. Not kind of, yes. Now, this side is longer and more like yours. This side I cut trying to show you how to cut out the ear. So my sides are not gonna match, but this is going to match, so I'm gonna cut to this. So if you see a little hiccup here, it's because I don't want to confuse you. Stay young, ladies, stay young. All right, so now I'm doing diagonal back. I'm gonna take that first section. Yes.
So like the Pixies that have the kind of longer in the front, that's coming from the top, not really the side.
Usually it's longer up here,
Yeah.
and this is like pieced around the face.
Okay.
If you leave it longer here, then you can't cut out the ear.
Yeah. What if they wanted? Do you know how sometimes they like want that point? Would you just
So
angle
that,
it differently?
so if I want like this heavy into a point and
Yeah.
the weight to come this way, I'm gonna take a graduated haircut, an inverted bob.
Okay,
I'm
with
gonna
the
cut
full
it and
haircut.
layer it.
Okay, got it.
That's why the picture she was showing earlier is
Mhm.
that are more,
That was more like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
and this is just one way to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there are variations of what we're cutting. 100 of them.
100 ways to skin a cat.
How many people are out there skinning cats that saying came about? 100 ways
Yeah.
to skin a cat. More than one way to skin a cat. I mean, I don't want to skin a cat.
I never heard of that.
You never heard there's more than one way to skin a cat?
Mhm.
Okay, well, it's because somebody was skinning cats, I think.
Oh my god.
Somebody ignore that little hole right there.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about, so that'll balance out in the back.
arms complete to cut it. That's how long it's been since I've cut your layers.
You see how it's the same, and I'm just cutting out that lower bottom corner now? Like, look at how that
stuff for my
weight
layers.
came off.
Is that?
What's left of your
Yeah.
layers? Yeah. Considering a year ago, you had like a severely late haircut.
Oh yeah, in January I got my hair cut. Really. Just one more here.
You see how that,
Hello,
do you see how that's working?
how are you? I'm well, how are you?
Thank you.
You see it?
I.
Here's my hair from the other one.
So you're connecting those.
But she, I think she's booked Tuesday and Thursday. I'm gonna get back on Saturday, but I just didn't know if there was something, I was supposed to get my hair done tomorrow at home and, Here it is! How are you? I was gonna say.
I heard your
voice. Good to see you.
Good to see
I'm only here a week, so.
Welcome back. What did you need?
Your book, my hair, I was supposed to have it done tomorrow at home, but, my daughter came and.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay, so you, what days?
I'm here today, I'm here all the time. So I don't.
What do you need, a color and cut?
I need cut, I just need.
I'm ready.
Your legs?
Yes,
And are you getting a blowout?
yes, I know,
I can do it on Thursday.
okay.
I can do it Thursday and then Sam can blow you up.
Okay.
Have you done a Pixie before? Really? Yeah, but cutting is like the hardest thing in the world for me. So I feel like I could do it, learn it 100 times.
You're right there. Cause I'm a screw. Just a group and blowout with me and Sam.
Alright.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a
Right
week.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was out of town for a wedding. I left. I haven't been at work since I only work Wednesday.
I'm happy you're back.
Yeah.
Wait,
Were
did
you?
you catch up?
No, I know.
You will.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I haven't seen you, and I was out of town Monday because of Thanksgiving, so I haven't seen you.
Okay, sorry. I was gonna try to be front desk it. That wasn't working. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, so do you see this shape happening? So I'm kind of at the last section, if you will. So I'm just gonna like,
Perfect.
You got me down?
I got you.
Appreciate it.
see you then, my
All
dear.
right, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You as well.
Thanks.
See? Before I cut this, does everybody see this last
Yeah.
cut? Okay. Thank you.
Yep. That blowout is overlapping with another blowout on Sam's book, but I'll have you look at that later.
Okay.
So it should come to a V.
Yeah, but sometimes like I'll just, if I don't want like a heavy.
Yeah.
Do you see this shape?
Yes.
The higher you elevate and the shorter you take it makes this move. So if your pixie is up here, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you would take this tighter, your elevation would be higher.
I think that's probably no.
So in like the case of my foot, it would have to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, healthy curls.
Okay, so you're gonna do just this portion and we'll do the layers together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now bangs on a doll look awful. Awful. No matter how you slice or dice it, it's hard to make bangs on a doll that look good. So we're not really gonna worry about that, like the look. But we're gonna take a combs width section. way to the top of that graduation. So you see my guide here? Okay, so I'm gonna start at a 90 and work my way to the crown with no over direction, just 90 degrees. When I come here at the top of the crown, I'm gonna bring it back slightly. Do you see that slight backward movement? But look how much length that preserved. That's like a lot of length. Do you know what I mean? So your over direction can be slight. It doesn't have to be anything severe. So we can come and cut a little bit more off of this. As long as it just slightly increases in length. Yeah? Okay, so I have my center guide. I'm gonna
Thank you so much.
push it to the side and I'm gonna cut this whole side. I'm just pivoting all the way around. You see that?
Bye. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much. I will. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Christy. Thank you.
I think it looks so easy.
And now I'm going to connect it down onto, do you see how this is laying over top of? So now I'm going to connect it down into my graduation. So leave your bangs out. Don't do anything to those bangs because you're going to do that dry. Okay? So you're going to connect right here. You see how I'm behind the bangs?
Bye, everyone.
Bye. So you see here, and then you're going to connect here, and you're taking out this big weighted point and connecting. Do you see that? Yes?
Yeah.
And then from here, you can texturize, you can adjust. Take that one shorter, but you see how that kind of all flows together? Ignore this like stuff right here because that's not how it looks on a real human. And then from here, we'll do the other side. So we'll take that guide, flip it over into the other side. So first I'm cutting the top and then I'm going in and connecting it to my graduation. You see that, right? And that's how I would cut a man's haircut too. Just cut the top and then tie it into the sides, but their top's gonna be a lot shorter, right? So now again, leave the bangs out. So I'm gonna connect this weight. Do you see where the connection is? Yes? Now, if I were cutting a human, this top would probably be a lot shorter. Do you know what I mean? But it just pops up in every way possible that's like awful, so leaving it a little longer is better. And then you can kind of customize the bangs So this one clearly wants to go this way. You see that?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna they're still gonna be longer in the front, they're just not gonna be such a disconnect. And then you're gonna do the same thing over here. Bring it the opposite direction and cut that point off. You see that? And then if it's still too heavy, you can come up and texturize out. What questions do you have? Okay,
Does it matter to their part?
I would just do it on the center for now. Okay. To keep it simple.
But if they have like a really defined part, do it to that part.
Well, so let's say they were like longer up here, yes, you would put it, because this might be all short and then longer.
So then that would have to be that way. Okay.
Yep.